Hi, my name is John Sarakis, and you're either watching or listening to The Climb. And this is brought to you by the Digital Mastermind. Goals. If you're not working on your goals, what are you actually working on? You should look at everything that you're doing through that lens. If you want to accomplish anything, if you want to feel fulfilled by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, whatever it is that you're wanting to do, your goals are the way that are going to get you there. A lot of the people listening to this, probably yourself included, are a business owner. You work for an agency, and it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and leave at the end of the day maybe drained or exhausted, especially through what we just went through the last couple of years. Something that has helped me, and I know a lot of other leaders, is by having a regimen where you have your goals. And there are programs, there are structures and these things that they use. But I think something as simple as just writing them down, whether that's by the month. Some people do it at the beginning of the year. Some people do it on a weekly basis. I prefer doing it on a daily basis because it galvanizes what's actually important to you. And what's important to you does often change, because even if you look at it, when you were a little kid, it's very unlikely you're doing what it is that you're doing now that you thought you would be doing. So with that said, today, if you get one takeaway from this, look at your goals and make sure that you're on the right track. It's something brutally simple, and you'll do yourself a service. All right. One announcement before we get into bringing out Dave and our guest is we still have some tickets left for our Mastermind Summit in October. That's October 16th, 17th, and 18th in sunny St. Augustine, Florida, at the beautiful Casa Monica Resort. It's going to be the best event of the year. Some people are saying it could be the best event of the decade. I don't know. I mean, that seems a little bit hyperbolic to me, but in any case, it's something you do not want to miss. All right, Dave, why don't you come out here?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's better now that you're here, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
So this was a fantastic guest because his name's Steve Preda. He's written a book called Buyable, and I mean, it's one of those things that starts out as a fable, but it's not one of those fables because it's a true story. And speaking on this, might sound a little bit critiquing. I hate fabled business books. It's like literally just watering down one of two things. But his starts with the true story of like what he had to go through to sell his business and his challenges. And of course, there's so many different things that you can take from there. And one of the things is having a structure, and something that, you know, we're going through now. And we've been talking about it for damn near 10 years is we're looking at EOS.
Yeah. I mean, I to be clear, we kind of tried it.
We treat it like a buffet. Let's be honest. I mean, we're like, you know what? I want the potatoes. I don't want the, the onions. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, for our size, and there was too many hat wearing at that time when we tried it, that it didn't work because we were, talking about buyable business. A buyable business is when everyone's got their hat and they're wearing it and they're executing. Mm-hmm. And you don't have a bunch of people wearing a bunch of hats and they're managing 2-3 departments or 3 tech. That's not viable. That's risky, because if you lose one person, you're really losing 3. And so I don't think EOS worked for us then, because we weren't scaling right, and we broke through that barrier using our hybrid EOS approach, and then we were able to get to a position where we're not so involved, and especially like talking about what the guest has to talk about. Like, get out of the business so that you can work on the business instead of in the business. And, we talk about that all the time. I mean, come on. How many times do we talk about this on this podcast?
You're absolutely right. And I think, too, it's not about being wrong. It's what was working, right? So it worked based on the way that we had it. And we got some feedback. Some distinctions were set. And, all right, we want to go and create something a little bit more formalized. The beauty, though, of attempting something that I think a lot of people don't know is you're going to maybe find some other little inventions on your own, right? Like, we have little things that we're going to work in there and not get away from, that are very us, that are just going to complement what we're doing, because it's not that what we're doing isn't working. We just want it to work better.
I have a meeting scheduled this week, later in the week, to talk with another DMG member about our custom tools that we use for teamwork TPM. Because we've been able to create our own tools and our own tooling on top of their API that gives us a better insight on what we're doing. Yep. And they're interested in that. And so those are those little things that you always add your flavor. I mean, that's what makes you unique. That's why you stand out amongst other people.
And in the DMG, I think you would potentially agree with me on this. It seemed as if some people early on, and this I'm going back 8 years, maybe 9 years, they thought it was like a panacea. They're like, "Oh, this is exactly what I need," and they still didn't get where they wanted to go because I don't think it's that. Granted, it's that structure. It'll give you that skeleton, but I think there's a lot of nuance that of soft skills. If you don't have those things, it's not going to be successful. And I just mean in general leadership.
I've said for a long time that I feel like there's a lot of people that tend to chase a tool constantly, and they're constantly trying something new. And there is a cost to that. Constantly asking your team to learn something new has a cost. And I resist it. I mean, you have to first prove to me that the current tool isn't sufficient, because I'm not changing just to change.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and there's that excitement though that builds up when you're like, "Oh, is this it?" But then I think there's an important stage you have to do is validate that against everything else you're doing and look at the consequence.
But isn't it almost always like a friend telling you about the latest, greatest movie that's in the theater, and that pumps you up, and you get in there and you're like, it was good, but I mean, was it great? Because someone talks about this tool and it does everything for us. It's great. It's the greatest thing. And then you implement it and you're like, all right, it's good, but it's not the most amazing thing.
I also think it's personalities, right? So I mean, it's just some people get their hopes up really high for that movie, and it's not met. I was speaking with an agency owner, speaking of new tools, the other day, and he mentioned they swapped out, somebody on his team swapped out Zoom for this app called Appreciate for all their internal meetings. Have you heard of this?
No.
So he's having an in-depth conversation with somebody now using this tool that they set up. And what this tool is supposed to do, so I can add some context, it creates your like analog office in some respects in the digital world, right? So anybody can walk into any room. So he's having this serious conversation, and somebody pops in like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, Todd?" And he's like, "Get the fuck out of here!" It's like, dude, get out of my office. And that's essentially what it is.
Is there a digital door slam? Like,
yeah, I don't know. But in any event, I think that's where expectations clearly weren't met. It sounded really excited, but that's something that's gonna be ephemeral. It's gonna wear off, right? I mean, how often do you want somebody just bursting into your office?
What problem are they trying to solve? I'll tell you what they're trying to solve with that. It's the loss of office culture, because everyone's working at home. So they're like, hey, here's this digital tool to fix office culture. When in reality, you're like, what? I don't want somebody just popping into my digital conversation.
No, and they may not had settings set up right. It could be a fantastic tool, but I think you're right. At the end of the day, what do they want to emulate? Somebody walking to the water cooler and saying like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Hey, how are the kids? Kids are great, cool." Boom, on to the next one.
Before we get to the interview, though, I do want to touch on your monologue goals. My goal for the Q1 was to overhire, and we finally achieved that last week. So, a couple weeks. I wanted to do it before the end of the Q1, but we achieved it. On to a new goal. Now it's to fill the pipeline.
That's my goal. Yeah. Oh, I love it. No, we got a fantastic team. There's been some recalibrating, definitely striking on our goals, and then EOS. I think that's the next thing that we're looking at. Determining whether it's right for us. And I guess one of the other takeaways there too is, and I wanted to give a shout out to Kevin Hurrigan for giving us the recommendation. He recommended EOS and how they went about it. And he said he had his leadership team read the book. And then based on reading the book, that's what they decided to move forward with. But without any further ado, I would like you to listen to this podcast, which I think is absolutely fantastic, with Steve Preda. Buy his book. I bought his book. I even left a Google review. Every word in there is true, or an Amazon review. Every word in there is true. It's fantastic. So please like it, share it, do whatever you want to do with it. If you hate it, send me an email, and maybe we'll have you on the show. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. All right. So I would like to start out with your climb. How did you get here?
How did I get here? So I don't know. The long climb is I started life as a corporate employee, reluctantly, because I always wanted to become an entrepreneur, but I got a job in London and I couldn't resist it. And so I stuck around for about 10 years. And then I went into business for myself. I ran an investment banking firm, And eventually I sold it. We moved to the US from Hungary. And then I became a business coach. And then I became a leadership team coach and started teaching other companies some of the concepts that I picked up as an entrepreneur from the books E-Myth and Traction and other books on how to build a small business into an effective and fast-growing, self-managing, profitable business. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. And I'm a climber, so I love the title of the podcast. It's my job is all about the climb. So I am climbing all the time, learning new things, and I help my clients climb as well. And I'm actually learning the stuff so that I can help their climb go faster and with less risk.
I love it. So you said a few things in there that jumped out. So you sold your investment banking and then you went into coaching, right? Shortly after?
Yes. What happened was, so we came over here. Things started changing in Hungary with the Eurozone crisis. Some of you might remember. And it looked like things were destabilizing, and the country also started changing and being less friendly to business and to international transactions and investors. So it looked like the investment banking was not going to thrive, and started investment banking here. And my wife told me one day that, Steve, you know what? It's great that you love doing these deals, but I also love getting a paycheck. So why don't you do something which is less risky, where I don't have to wait for 12 months for you to close the deal, but something more regular. And then I started taking on some clients, and I realized that it's a great business coaching, because you actually it's all positive, and the deal making, either the deal goes well or it doesn't go well. So it can be very stressful, and sometimes clients change their mind. So even if you do everything right, you might not get the result. Whereas with coaching, if you have the right kind of client, and if not, then you can make a change. But it's basically you help them grow, and it's very rewarding, and it's a much more consistent experience, and a much positive experience. So that's basically how I got here.
So you're happier, your wife's happier, everybody's happier.
Exactly.
So with your coaching, what is the main point that you focus on? Is it the profitability aspect? Do you have something holistic? Like, how do you go about what it is that you do to help businesses?
So I like to work with entrepreneurs that want to grow their business, because you don't have to grow it. And most business owners actually are running a lifestyle business. If they are franchisee, then maybe they just bought themselves a job because they got bruised by having been fired. So they want to make sure that their bosses themselves, they cannot be fired, and they just like the structured environment. And then you have other people who just like to be the smartest person in the room, and they don't want to grow. They just want to know that they run this business. They have this social connection, and everyone is eating from their hands, and they love that thing, and they know something really well. They're an attorney, or they're an accountant, or whatever, professional, and they just want to do that. This is not the kind of business I like to work with. I like entrepreneurs who really want to grow the business. They have something at the end of the rainbow that they're trying to achieve, whether it's growing a great business or having a great technology that they want to share with people. So they have a purpose, or maybe they just want to grow the business to exit, and then they want to do something else. That's fine too, as long as they want to grow and they're willing to pay the price for growth, which there are growing pains, obviously. I love these people, and then I help them make that happen. So help them make themselves grow, their team grow, to execute better, to make sure that they have a clear vision and a strategy, how they're going to get there, to make sure that they create the playbooks so that their business runs on autopilot at some point. And then they are really at the top of their industry in terms of profitability as well. So how to engineer the business, benchmark the business to that level of profitability, engineer it, and how to create this strategy stack that allows them to sustain that level of profitability. So that's what I'm all about. And
so with that,
for people who are game for that.
Got it. And then with that, when you start working with a business, how often are these business owners just like pie in the sky? Where like, I want to double my revenue next year. Like, do you have to deal with a lot of that? And if you do, how do you help them understand what reality really is?
Of course, and that can be a really great way to self-sabotage for people, because as long as you are shooting for the stars um, and not get there, that's okay, because you had a crazy plan, so you cannot really be accountable to a crazy plan. So I really encourage them to, I want them to set stretch goals, but I want them to set goals that they can really achieve, and they understand exactly what they need to do to achieve them, and set those goals. Because if you set out of reach goals, then essentially you don't have a goal. After the first quarter, you're off track, and you basically have nothing to go by. There's no pressure to perform because you had a crazy plan that doesn't count. So I try to avoid that. I want them to figure out, Jim Collins talks about the 20-mile march. So what is your sustainable growth rate, and how do you figure that out, and how do you get on that and stay on it? That's what I think is the goal for most businesses.
So when it comes to working with these entrepreneurs, these are people that want to grow, which are those, when we take on clients, that those are the ones that I want to look for, right? Because if you don't want to grow, you want to maintain, that's boring, and I don't even know how to help you. But what should these people look at, right? Because obviously they need someone to help them push, but like, what are the things that somebody needs to get clear before they grow?
Well, they need to know exactly why they want to grow. Because if they don't know that, then it's going to be a fleeting motivation. They will not be able to sustain it. They will not be able to get through the hard parts. So they have to be really clear in their mind why they want to grow. So some people want to grow because they want, they want to win and want to have an exciting business, and they want to feel successful. Some people want to grow because they want to cash out, and they have a different dream that they want to achieve with the money that they require, or maybe a different business that they want to start. And some people generally have a mission to help other people, and they just want to contribute, and the business is a vehicle for the contribution. So whatever it is, if they don't know why they are doing it, they're not going to be able to do it, in my opinion. So that's the first one. And then we go from there.
So what is your favorite answer when somebody says, this is why I want to grow? What is the one that you're like, oh yeah, I can help this person?
Well, it's my favorite one is when it's outside of themselves. So if they say that I want to grow because I want to be at a great company, that can be fine too, but it's not as powerful, because it's very self-centered. If they can find a purpose that's outside of the business, that's much more powerful. And it's something also that they can then line everyone up in the business for, to support that, or they find the right people who are who want to do that. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients, they are in the energy efficiency business, and they set this goal to convert 1 million houses to net zero in the next 20 years.
Okay.
And this is a fantastic idea, and their people are super excited about it. The ones that are not excited, they're gonna leave, and that's fine. But it's something that really energizes everyone. It's a great story. They all want to be part of this great story, and then when you have a goal like that, then it's easy to grow the business, and it's easy to mobilize people. When you only have a goal, you want to be $50 million in revenue, that's less exciting for people. Unless they are a shareholder, because it's harder to emotionally connect to a purpose like that.
Yeah, especially with employees. Like, dude, like that's your money.
Exactly. So it's another zero. Maybe I don't even want to work for this company because I don't think highly of big companies. They become corporate machines, and I don't want to be part of a corporate machine. But if there is a purpose that you are doing, that you are accomplishing as a company, like converting 1 million houses and saving the environment, that's something I want to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also earlier mentioned self-sabotaging based on setting the goal. What are some of the other ways that businesses self-sabotage, business owners or entrepreneurs?
Well, a very common one is not willing to let go. So business is a team sport, and you cannot do it alone, even if you are super entrepreneur like Elon Musk. and he can do a lot of things. He can do the work of 100 other people, right?
Yeah.
But he still needs other people around him, and he needs to empower these other people. He needs to attract them and let them make their own contributions. So the big self-sabotage is when someone wants to make all the decisions themselves and are not able to share the limelight, share the podium, empower others, coach others up so that they can make decisions, they can contribute, they can actually find their ways of making this business great. That's a big self-sabotage.
What about the business owners that are afraid of the limelight, are afraid of some of those things? Because that's on one side that could be self-sabotaging. Do you deal with that a lot as well?
If the business owner themselves, it's not a problem. If they surround themselves with other people that then do that. I mean, I have a client who is like that. He's very reserved, but he's got a second in command who is very outgoing and very expressive and extroverted. And he gets out and he spreads the gospel, and he's the face of the business, and the owner is pulling the strings in the background, and it works great. So it doesn't have to be the CEO necessarily who is the front person of the business.
It works one way, but it doesn't work the other. Now, how about growing fast? What are the things that need to be in place so a business can grow fast?
Well, so it depends on the business as well. So some businesses are not able to grow fast because they have something that holds them back. For example, professional service firms are typically like that. Their business is training their people so they can provide a great personal service, like attorneys and accountants. And it's very hard to scale fast because you are limited by the rate of being able to integrate new people in the business and teach them your way of doing the business. Of course, they can go by acquisitions and do other things, but organically there are limitations. And then you have some businesses that can really grow fast because they have a technology product, and it's all about scaling the product. And if the product is in AWS, maybe it's scalable, and they just have to get it into a distribution channel, and then they grow really fast, especially if the product doesn't require a lot of customer support. So different businesses are different, and I would say that the best idea is to figure out what is your sustainable growth rate, as we talked about a minute ago, your 20-mile march that you can get done every year. You can consistently grow and absorb the people that you need and develop the processes and move the people forward. If you figure it out and you can stay in that sweet spot, then you can grow without disruptions in a gradual fashion. And that's the most valuable growth that I have found that there is.
With no disruptions?
Well, with minimal disruptions. I mean, growth always requires, always involves disruptions because you're doing new things and you're bringing in a lot of people and they make mistakes. So to not have any disruption, you're probably not pushing the envelope if you have no disruptions, but manageable disruptions. So you don't want something that basically pushes the business off course, and then you have to stop the conveyor belt. It's like a conveyor belt that's moving forward, and if you have a big problem, then you have to stop the conveyor belt and fix it, and that's very disruptive. So you want to avoid this kind of problem. So they want to create the consistency in the growth.
Now, and with that, would you say creating that consistency, is it just all systems firing? Is it culture? Is it processes? Is it all the above? Like, what is the main driver for that?
So there's no silver bullet. I don't think so. But I like to think about this. The system I'm teaching is called Pinnacle.
Okay.
And it's a customized operating system for companies. And we have 5 principles we call the Pinnacle principles that we follow and we work around with companies or work on with companies. And these are people, purpose, performance, playbook, and profit. So people is all about putting the right people in the right seats and coaching your A potentials so they become A players, and coaching out your B and C players, replacing them with A potentials. Purpose is all about figuring out, okay, why you're doing this. What is your why? What is your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal? We call the pinnacle. So what is your long-term goal? What is your vivid vision? So what's your medium-term goal? And then what are your annual goals and your rocks and your metrics that you measure on a weekly basis? And what are your daily activities that feed into it? What is your strategy? How you're going to get to your vision? And then the performance is actually getting this done. So setting your quarterly objectives, your rocks, OKRs, whatever you call them, hitting your metrics. And then the playbook. So how do you systemize things so that it's not just the leadership level that can do this, but you actually be able to delegate, because you create processes, you create consistency, and you optimize those processes over time. And then how do you improve your profit? How do you benchmark yourself to the elite of your industry and engineer the business so that you deliver an elite level of profitability? And how do you sustain that in the long term? So what are the what is the strategy stack that you cobble together that will give you this hard to copy combination of strategies that will allow you to stay consistently differentiated and highly profitable?
All right, so you're coming out with your own framework, your own operating system. So you're going to be in the ranks of like Vern Harnish and who's the other guy that did the EO one? What's
Gino Wickman.
Yeah, Gino Wickman.
Yeah.
Is it at that level? Is that what you're competing with this? This is
so it's interesting. So I'm part of Pinnacle. So Pinnacle, we have 125 guides in the Pinnacle system, and it is a customized. So we use the other operating system concepts, and we customize the system for our clients, and we have these 5 principles. So I didn't come up with the principles, but I'm kind of helping deepen these principles, and I'm writing a book about it. So it's not my system, but I think I contribute to it to some extent.
Well, got it. Well, it's, you're the first one that introduced me into it, so it'll forever be known as Steve Preda wrote it to Jon. All right, so with those principles, like how does a company keep on track? You said it's based on having that playbook, and then if it is that playbook, like how often are these things talked about?
So meetings are really important, and Patrick Lencioni talks about meetings being the stage for the executive. So the same way as the operation room for the surgeon and football player, football field. So the meeting is the stage for the business owner, the business leader. And you essentially you do your work as a leader. You do your work in meetings, right? This is how you get on the same page, and this is how you help other people contribute to ideas, solve problems. And you need a meeting cadence, and there are different meetings. And Lencioni talks about this concept in Death by Meeting. You need to have your strategic planning annual meeting. You have your quarterly strategic meeting. You have your weekly tactical, and your daily stand-up. And all of them have their own role in creating that execution cadence so that there is peer accountability happening. It's structured accountability, right? It's you've got these meeting groups. People solve problems. They hold each other accountable. They make sure everyone is staying on track with goals and numbers and everything. That's what I think that's what you need, a kind of a structured accountability system. And that is one of the things that these management blueprints, I call them, these operating systems, give you.
Got it. Okay. All right. No, I like that. So would you say that you identify more with the EO system than any of the other, is what I take it?
So I believe that
the best one, Steve. Come on, just say it. Let's make some enemies here. Who gives the best operating system out there?
So I believe that no one has cornered the market for good ideas, and what Vern Harnish said recently is that one size fits all fits no one. So I believe that you need every company is a different stage of development. So yes, you can get like a cookie cutter system and you can implement it, by the letter. That's a great approach, especially for a small company. But another approach is to meet the company where it is in its its evolution, and essentially customize the system for them so that they're going to grow faster because they're doing what they need to be doing at the time. and you assemble from a set of tools the right operating system for that company. And of course, every company needs to set goals, needs to have a vision, needs to have a strategy, needs to be measuring people, needs to have processes, right? These are given things. Every company needs to have it, and most of these operating systems have some kind of a solution for it. But some operating systems will take you up to maybe 3,000 feet high. Another one will take you to 5,000 feet. But if you want to get to 30,000 feet, then you need to have a more sophisticated system, which is more customized. And that's what Pinnacle is, climbing the highest mountains.
Got it. So instead, and that's where I think there's like a lot of, if somebody's good at a tool, let's just take a business coach, right? If they're an EO or they're an EMIT or whatever, they're going to sell or implement what they know. So is it what you do where you take a look at the business and then you select a specific program, or is the program you're offering granted the pinnacle, right? I mean, it's probably a pretty good word for it, where it's customizable in that way where it treats a lot of the others like a buffet, so you can customize it to the business.
So there are some basic tools that you want to implement in any way. So you want to set goals, you want to set drafts, you want to have a scoreboard and all that stuff. Yeah. But then the other tools are customized, and it's also the timing of it. So what's the right time for a company to introduce processes, which we call playbooks? Mm-hmm. If they don't have themselves organized at the leadership level, it's too early, right? That's not the low-hanging fruit for them. The low-hanging fruit for them is to start having a meeting cadence and start to set some goals, some rocks, and start to hitting them and start to have metrics for everyone. These are the fundamentals. They have to figure out what does the culture look like for them and what is the right structure for them. So before they figure it out, it's too early to optimize the profitability and think about benchmarking themselves to the best companies in their industries. They are not there yet. First, they have to have the basics down. So yes, it is basically the idea that there are new concepts coming out all the time. I host a podcast that you were a guest on, and we recorded
your best episode ever, wasn't it?
Definitely at that time. And it was funny. It was a very good one, and we are around the 90th episode, recorded 90 episodes, and we are not repeating the frameworks. That there are so many frameworks out there. It's not just EOS and scaling up and eMyth. There are many others. Some of them are partial frameworks, but the idea is that there is a big buffet of frameworks, and it's not a question of companies don't die of starvation; they die of indigestion. So you need someone to curate these, to study these, and then bring the right tool to you at the right time, rather than you being out there and trying to be an expert. It's like having cancer and then, doing your Google research and you say, oh, okay, I'm going to do chemotherapy. I think that's the right one for me. No, you're going to go to the Mayo Clinic and they're going to diagnose it, and an experienced doctor will decide whether it's radiotherapy or chemotherapy or surgery or
that's exactly what I'm talking about. All these people are self-diagnosing and they're just selecting the program that's best for them. And this could be a huge business opportunity for somebody, or maybe even for you, where you're like, no, this is the best one for you. It's not the one size fits all. It's not everybody's not going to like chocolate, right? There's vanilla, strawberry, so on and so forth. You got to figure out the flavor that's going to work best for your culture and your company. So
and here's the thing: if you create a custom operating system, that's going to be part of the value of the business. So they have their own operating system, and if someone wants to buy that business, that it comes with its custom operating system.
Oh, it's a premium.
It is more valuable.
Really? Did not know that. That's a big takeaway. All right, or a golden nugget, as we like to say in the DMG. Okay. All right, so let's shift gears. Let's say that there's a company right now, they're listening to this, their back's up against the wall, they're 2 months from running out of money, they have no profitability. What should they do?
I think they should fix their profitability issue. I mean, if they are in a survival mode, then they will not be able to work on the business as much as they have to work in the business. So they have to figure out how they generate cash, how they land some big deals. So this is not the right kind of company for an operating system. First, they have to fix their, put out the fires. It's not that there are no fires later, but if the house is ablaze, then first they have to put out the fire, and then they can start working on the business a little bit later when they are out of immediate danger.
Got it. Stop the leaking and then focus on the others. Because I run into business owners that you meet them and everything's good up front. You're like, oh, high fiving, and then they take you aside and they're like, okay, look, this is the real situation that I'm in, right? And you're like, oh wow. And I've noticed a lot of those people are looking for these silver bullet solutions. Like, you know what I need, and fill in the blank with whatever that framework is or whatever that book is that they need to read. And I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to flawlessly executing the basics. If you don't have more money coming in your company than going out, there's a high probability that you're going to run out of business really soon. Granted, magic happens all the time, but I think Mother should have taught us all that we're never the exception.
Now, there's a caveat, because you've got some companies that run on adrenaline. So the reason they are not consistently profitable is because their driver is the crisis. So they are basically crisis junkies. They're addicted to it. And whenever there's a crisis, then they get energized, and then they focus and they do what they need to do. And as soon as the crisis is averted, they kick back and they relax, because they worked so hard and they now have to take a break. And then things start to slip, and then they fall into the crisis. And until they fall into the crisis, they have no motivation, because they have no vision, they have no strategy. So it's the abyss that is that motivating them. And many companies actually are in this situation. So if your problem is not that the house is ablaze, but it is that you are stuck and you have this stop-go thing and this crisis motivated company, then you definitely can use an operating system to figure out, okay, where are we going? What are we trying to achieve here? Who is doing what? And how do we measure ourselves? And what are going to be our rocks that's going to move our company forward beyond the day-to-day grind? Then it's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
So, but if the company is out of cash, and then I think it's better to go to the bank and renegotiate the credit line first, and fix the product or start getting some sales in. That's number one priority, and worry about the operating system later.
God, these crisis junkies are interesting. So these people, I'm assuming, think they're dealing with what are all high priority items, but they're not. They're just going from one crisis to the next. And as soon as they get their batteries recharged, by that time, the next one is up in front of their face and they get to work on that. Other than being awareness to it, like how do you treat that problem?
It's really how you treat it is really having a conversation. Why are you in business in the first place? Is this a lifestyle business? Are you in this business? But if it's a crisis to crisis business, it's not fun. So it's probably not a lifestyle business. So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to grow and get an exit? Do you have do you want to do something else? Do you want to retire at a certain time and you just to get yourself to the point of retirement? So what do you want to do? And then when you have that, then you can reverse engineer. Okay, what does it take to get to this point? What is the profitability that you need to create? What is the scale you have to achieve? What is the kind of team that you need to have? And then you can start building towards that. And when they figured out that this is what I want, then there is a new motivation. It's not the crisis, it's getting to my goal. And then taking the baby steps towards your goal and gradually building the momentum. And it's like the airplane, until it reaches 200 miles per hour, it's going to stay on the ground. And at some point, there is liftoff. And after the liftoff, when you reach cruising altitude, then you need a lot less effort to maintain that cruising altitude. So this is what you want. You want to get to liftoff, and then you get to the cruising altitude, and then everything becomes much easier. It becomes a well-oiled machine, and it's no longer the crisis that drives you, but it's your goals, it's your vision, it's your strategy. And then it's not just you as a business owner, but everyone else is driving, because the crisis only worries the business owner because it's their money. But if you have a good vision that everyone is excited about it, then you have harnessing the energy, not just of the business owner, but the whole team. And that makes the life of the business owner a lot easier.
I love it. No, I think that's sage advice. Steve, what is the biggest challenge in your career lifetime that you've overcome?
It's always the last one that's the biggest, right? Because you get used to solving the easy ones, the previous ones. So one really big challenge was when in 2012 we decided to move here, and at that time I got approached by a private equity fund manager, and he suggested that we combine our businesses. And I told him that I cannot be your partner, but we can maybe you can buy my business. So it's kind of great timing. So he said, okay. And a couple of weeks later, I got an email, and I opened up the email with excitement, and I got totally crushed by it, because basically what I read in this email was that I didn't have a buyable business. Even though I've been teaching other businesses how to make them buyable, the emperor had no clothes. And actually my business, what I got was an offer for the furniture, the computers, and a commission on the deals that we were going to close, which was very crushing. And I decided to hunker down. And fortunately, at that time, I stumbled upon Traction. I found the book Traction, and I realized that this is exactly what I needed at the time. So I started implementing the meeting cadence and the rocks and metrics, scorecard, and empowering my people. I had great people, but I just didn't empower them. I was making odd decisions, like those lifestyle entrepreneurs that I sometimes talk about with the vision. So I was one of those, and I had no other option. I was over here, they were over there in Hungary, and I was surprised how much they embraced it. They actually were really ready to step up. Started, doing pitches themselves, sales pitches without me, and then started generating new prospects and started closing deals without me. So fast forward 12 months, the business was pretty much self-managing, and I got a call from my private equity buyer who suggested that we have another conversation, because they actually would like to renegotiate this deal and pay a real money for it. And that's how I sold my business. So the greatest kind of disappointment and challenge actually catalyzed the greatest success, because it forced me to find a solution. And luckily, I stumbled upon Traction. And as they say, that when the student is ready, the master will appear. So it was this kind of moment, and that actually catalyzed my interest in these management blueprints at an even deeper level. And this is why I decided to do this for other companies as well.
And you did it all, and you turned around your company in 12 months?
Yes, and truth be told, it was a great. I think it was a great company. I had great people. I just neglected to elevate them and to empower them, because I enjoyed making the decisions. Right?
What
I enjoyed.
did the company see after 12 months that made you more viable? Like, were they buying? You know what I mean? Like, what was that?
Well, the simple fact that I was not in the country, and the company was prospering. So they realized that it wasn't about me, that my people can do it without me. So they actually, it wasn't such a risky proposition for them to buy the company, because even if I walked away, they had a great team who understood the business and could run the business.
Got it. Awesome, man. That's fantastic.
It worked out, and the company is still around. It then merged with another business, and it's pretty much a market leader in Hungary. It's called Concord MB Partners. So sometimes I check their website and say, wow. In a way, I had this mixed feeling that on one hand, I was proud of them being able to do it without me, but on the other hand, I felt kind of unnecessary. And I felt like, heck, how come they can do it without me? I thought I was the special sauce there, which turned out not to be the case.
Oh, They did it because of you, I think is the best way to say that.
They started doing it because of me, but then they charted their own course from the red point when I get out of picture, and now the company evolved in a different way than I would have evolved it, but it's equally successful, or possibly even more successful.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to cover that you believe the world should know that we haven't talked about today?
The world should know. Well, one thing that I have experienced is that practically all companies that I meet, they all have a latent energy that they are not tapping into. And that's why it's good to have a coach, because the coach helps you cover your blind spot and help you find intentionally those opportunities where you can harness that energy. I've seen so many times that the business owner is frustrated that people are not pulling their weight. They're waiting for them for decisions, and they are not taking initiative. Guess what? They have not been empowered, or they have not been shown a goal. You haven't created the opening for them, and you are leaving money on the table. You're not harnessing the energies of your team, and I think that's one of the biggest opportunities for people to take advantage of.
Find that latent energy and harness it. How other than hiring you, how can they do that?
By asking questions, by figuring out what the company stands for, what is the noble purpose of this business, and then sharing with other people that, hey, we are here changing the world. We are going to convert 1 million houses into net zero. We're going to save the environment. Are you going to join me in this quest? It's the old story. Steve Jobs went to the CEO of PepsiCo and told him that, hey, do you want to sell sugar water to kids, or you want to save the world? Want to change the world? And that's what they need to do to harness the energy. They need to develop a vision that is exciting and share it with people, and get them on buy-in on the journey.
And the irony of Steve Jobs doing that is now he creates a bunch of electronics that people that can't afford them do whatever they can to buy them.
Well, Steve Jobs is not alone anymore, not around.
He doesn't, right?
We don't know what he would like to do, but maybe Tim Cook has a plan. I don't know what their plan is right now.
Yeah, and granted, they make great devices, so
they do.
Spoken a little bit of
they
fun.
Do.
All right, this is your space to plug, promote, or anything that you would like to share. And I would like to plug your book, Buyable, which is a fantastic book. I highly recommend anybody read it wherever they are in the life cycle of their business. But other than that, please, my friend, say whatever it is that you would like to say.
So yes, so please check out Buyable on Amazon, or the Management Blueprint podcast, where I talk about these frameworks. And you can find everything on stevepreda.com. So that's my website, and there are links to episodes of the podcast and the book, and you can sign up for my new book as well.
Awesome.
It's coming up soon. Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, John. Thanks for inviting me.
Hope you enjoyed our episode. Please subscribe and review wherever you can. And if you would like to join the Digital Mastermind, go ahead and shoot me an email at jon@digitalmastermind.com, or visit us at digitalmastermind.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye now.